Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japhet. And unto them were sons born after the flood. Right? Verse 2. The sons of Japhet, Gomer and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tyrus. All right. Verse 3. And the sons of Gomer, which is Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah. Verse 4. And the sons of Javan, which is Elisha, and Tarshish, and Kittim, or which is known as Shittim in other writings, right? And the Daimon, all right? The Daimon, right? Verse 5. But these were the isles of the who? Of the Gentiles, divided in their land, every one after his tongue, and after their families in their nations. Okay, so right here, this is letting you know that the descendants of Japhet is the Gentiles, all right? Not all nations that's not of the lineage of Shem are Gentiles, all right? You have the Gentiles, that's the children of Japhet, and then you have the heathens, which is the descendants of Ham, okay? And then you have the chosen lineage, which are the Shemites, okay? So in the so-called New Testament, you know, there's a confusion going on there where they're calling people of Ham, okay, or, you know, people of other nations that's not of Israel, Gentiles. And that's not true, because right here in Genesis 10 is letting you know who the true Gentiles are, which are descendants of Japhet, okay? Verse 6. And the sons of Ham, which is Cush, Mizraim, Phut, and Canaan. Verse 7. And the sons of Cush, which is Seba, and Havilah, and Septah, and Ramah, and Septakia. And the sons of Ramah, which is Sheba, and Dedan. Verse 8. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. Verse 9. He was a mighty hunter before the Most High Power, wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord, meaning that he opposed the Lord. You know, he tried to stand adjacent to the Most High. Okay, he didn't believe in the Most High, right? Verse 10. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Iraq, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. Verse 11. Out of that land went forth Assur, okay, which builded Nineveh, all right, which was the troubled city that was in sin. You had some Israelites there living in Nineveh, which is in the land of Canaan, which is the Canaanites, and they was living in sin. So that's why Jonah was sent to warn them, right? And the city of Rehoboth and Calneh. Verse 12. And the reason between Nineveh and Calneh, the same is a great city. Okay, so all of these are Canaanite cities, right? In continuation, let's jump down to verse 15. And Canaan begat Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite. All right, remember that, right? The Amorite, which is also written in the book of Genesis, chapter 15, when it said the iniquity of the Amorites aren't fulfilled yet. Okay, and who we was in captivity to for 400 years, right? The seed of Aram, which is Abraham or Ibrahim, right? So that's letting you know where the Amorite is from right here, which is a Hamite and also a Canaanite. All right. Verse 16 again from the top. And the Jebusite and the Amorite and the Girgashite. Okay. In continuation. And the Hivite and the Archite and the Canaanites. Verse 18. And the Arvadite, and the Zemarite, and the Hamathite, and after were the families of the Canaanites, what? Spread abroad, okay? Spread abroad. That means the Canaanites went all over the earth, man. Okay, just like I was telling people, okay? The Canaanites went abroad, okay? So when they like to say that the children of Israel was scattered abroad, all right, according to the book of James, all right, in the first verse, okay, what about what you have to say about this right here when it says the Canaanites spread it abroad? All right, so that means that the Canaanites went all over the earth. All right, they was over here in the Americas. They was over there in East Asia. Okay, they was in so-called Russia, the land of the north. Okay, they even went down to Africa. All right, the so-called South Africans. All right, they went to Canada. Okay, South America. All right, they spread it abroad, man. Okay. And the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon, and as thou comest to Gerar onto Gaza, all right, which is the Gaza Strip, so to speak. All right, so that's also letting you know that those people there are Canaanites. All right, as thou goest onto Sodom and Gomorrah, all right, which is also Canaanites, and Admah and Zeboim, even on Lasha. Okay, verse 20. These are the sons of Ham, and after their families, and after their tongues, and their what? Their countries, right? They had countries, man. They went to different countries, not different regions, different countries, man, all over the earth. And in their nations, man, right? So that's letting you know that the Canaanites were all over the earth, man. So you can't say that the so-called natives of foreign lands are Israelites, right? Even according to the book of Genesis, in which I'm in right now, chapter 1, verses 26 to 29, it's letting you know that there was people that was already in the earth scattered abroad also before the flood. All right, so there was people that wasn't the chosen people of the Most High all over the earth, occupying the earth already. All right. Let's go to verse 21. On to Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, all right, which the word Hebrew derived from, right? The brother of Japhet, the elder, even to him were born children, okay? Verse 22. The children of Shem, which is Elam and Ashur and Arphaxad and Lud and Aram. Verse 23. The children of Aram, which is Uz or Hul and Gether and Mash. Verse 24. And Arphaxad beget Salah, and Salah beget Eber, which is Hebrew, right? Verse 25. And unto Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided. And his brother name was Joktan. Verse 26. And Joktan begat Alamadad, and Shilpha, and Hazarmaveth, and Jerah. Verse 27. And Hadmaram, and Uzol, and Diklah. Verse 28. And Obal, and Abimael, and Sheba. All right. Verse 29. And Ophir, and Haliva, or Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. All right. Verse 30. And their dwelling place was from Meshah, as thou goest unto Sephar, a mount of the east, all right, which is in the so-called Middle East, right? Verse 31. These are the sons of Shem, and after their families, after their tongues, and their lands, after the nations. All right. So this is talking about the lands, which is the region. Notice this is different than what it said from the families of the Canaanites. All right. They had countries, right? But right here, Shem had the lands, all right, which was the region of Canaan, which was promised to the seed of Abraham, all right, from the so-called Nile River to the Euphrates and Tigris, all right. Verse 32. These are the families of the what? The sons of Noah, after their generations and their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. Okay, so mind you, it said the sons of Noah. It didn't say the daughters of Noah, right? Or the daughters-in-law of Noah. All right, it said the sons. Okay, so right here it's reiterating once again that the Most High is dealing with the seed lineage of the dad man, right? In continuation. Now let's go back to the chapter 15 in the book of Genesis. Okay. Let me see if I could just backspace. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. As a matter of fact, just in case if I can't, let's go ahead and just type this 5 in here. All right. So here we go in the book of Genesis. Once again, chapter 15. And we're going to go down to verse 12 again. And it read, and when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, and horror of great darkness fell upon him. Verse 13. And he said unto Abram, knoweth of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them for what? 400 years. Verse 14. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. Okay. And afterward they shall come out with great substance. Okay. Verse 15. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age. Verse 16. But in the 4th generation shall they come hither again, for the iniquities of the Amorites is not yet full. Okay, so we already determined who the Amorites were. All right, according to the book of Genesis, the 10th chapter, he's the son of Ham. All right, the cursed son of Ham. All right, which we will get into soon. Okay, so that's letting you know that the Amorites who had the Israelites in captivity for 400 years was the Amorites, which were the Canaanites. They were descendants of so-called Egyptians, right? When you go into the definition of Egypt, when you go into the etymology of it, it just says bondage. It's not a people, it's a condition, right? The original people of that land was the people of Cush, okay, which was a son of Ham, but he wasn't a cursed son of Ham. All right, Canaan was a cursed son of Ham. All right, so this is why the Canaanites opposed the Most High, because he cursed them because of the sin of what Ham did to Noah. All right, so this is why the Canaanites opposed the Most High. Okay, because the Most High cursed them. All right, so of course, if you're against the Most High, you're going to be against the Most High's people. All right, so this is what I was talking about with this brother, and it's kind of complicated for some, but, when you're following doctrine, that's what you're going to believe. When you follow in the doctrine, everyone's screaming, oh, Esau this, Esau's that. He's the one that's ruling the world. He's the one that holds the children of Israel in captivity, which is true, according to, the Edomite lineage, the ones who's so-called white today, he mixed and mingled, what daughters from the nation of Canaan, which was the cursed nation. Okay. Now, when the Most High put a curse on Canaan, basically, just as he does other people who he have cursed, all right, he turned them a certain color. Okay, what did he do to Cain? He cursed him. All right. How did Cain complain to the Most High when he said, well, being that you put this curse on me, the other people of the world, they're going to see that I'm different, and then they might try to murder me. So, the Most High had to make a promise to Cain to say, if they're going to do something to you, if they're going to try to attempt to murder you, then I'm going to murder them or kill them 7 times over. All right. So that was a promise and an oath that the Most High gave to Cain, all right, to preserve his life, because he had a purpose for Cain. All right. But nonetheless, he gave Cain a curse, and it was a curse that was easily recognizable by the other people of the world. Okay, the same thing that he did with Canaan. He cursed Canaan. Okay, he put a mark on Canaan. What did he do to Miriam, right, which was Moses and Aaron's sister? He cursed her with what? Pale skin, okay, which is deemed leprosy. What did he do to Naaman and Gehazi when he cursed them? Gave them pale skin, okay, which is leprosy. But he healed Naaman, all right, through the prophet Elisha. But Gehazi, which was wicked, he didn't repent of his sins, so the Most High gave him a curse. And this one is perpetual. Gehazi's curse is throughout his whole entire life. Not only his life, but, his seed forever. Okay, so all the descendants of Gehazi was cursed with pale skin. Okay, due to the sin of Gehazi. Okay, so what about with Ham? When Ham committed that sin against his dad Noah, okay, which was an abomination in the Most High's sight, he cursed his son, which was his seed, Canaan. Okay, so what did he curse Canaan with? If you start connecting the dots and putting one and one together, when you look at Miriam, when you look at the Gehazi, when you look at Cain, okay, when you look at Naaman, all right, when you start connecting the dots, what did he curse Canaan with? All right, but when you listen to doctrines that's from Mormonism or Islam, they'll tell you that the Most High cursed people with dark skin. When the Most High cursed you, he put dark skin on you. This is what they believe. This is what they say. So they twist everything around. It's as it says in the book of Isaiah. Woe to you that call evil good and good evil. You place bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. You turn things upside down, and roughly paraphrasing. Right? So this is the doctrine of the Mormons. Right? So I don't understand how some brothers and sisters talk about how the Book of Mormon is a part of the Bible. Like, are you serious, man? Like, what you done bump your head somewhere talking about the Book of Mormon is a part of the Bible, and that's a doctrine that we should follow. Are you serious? Right? And in that book, it tells you that they curse you with dark skin, man. When the Most High curse you. Really? And you following that doctrine, man. You following that nonsense. Right? They reversed everything around, man. Okay, so if they reversed everything around, and then the Book of Mormon and the holy, unholy Quran tell you that you're cursed with dark skin when you curse with the Most High. If that's turned around, and if you turn it back around, when the Most High curse you, what does he give you? What does he give you? What skin color does he give you? If they tell you that you're cursed with black skin, because they turned the doctrine around of the scripture, but if you turn it back around and the Most High give you a curse, what color skin does he give you? It's plain and simple, man. Right? It's common sense. But common sense ain't common nowadays. Right? So that's how you know who the Canaanites is, man, right? It's not Esau. Esau wasn't born with pale skin, man, and with stringy hair, right? Loose hair, with the curse of lice. All right? And this is not to be racist or prejudiced or anything like that. I'm just stating truth. Right? You don't see black folks, so-called black folks, with lice in their hair. right? You don't see us with stringy, thin hair, okay? But that's a curse for people with straight, thin hair, man. Lice, okay? Let alone the skin, okay? So this is what's going on here, man. This is what I was explaining to a brother one time, and he actually got it. He said, you know what, I understand you. I understand you. You know, it's just that a lot of people, you know, they're so lost in this doctrine by saying, oh, Esau's the white man. Esau's the white man. You know, he's the one with white pale skin. He's the one with stringy hair. That's not true. Because if Esau was born to two black parents, not one, two, Isaac and Rebekah, so-called black people with coarse hair, how can Esau be born with pale skin and stringy hair? If both parents had coarse hair, dark skin, how can Esau be born with pale skin and stringy hair? But Jacob is dark just like them with coarse hair. That don't make no damn sense, man. How is that even possible? Now, don't get me wrong. Our people can have light-skinned babies, you know, lighter shades of brown. Okay, that's proven. You know, I'm living proof, right? However, you can't say that Esau was born a lily white man with dog stringy hair, man, or goat stringy hair, right? The Most High's chosen people have sheep hair, wool hair, coarse hair, right? Free of lice. So you can't say that Esau is the white man, right? Esau is our brother. Esau looks just like us, man. He's just light-skinned, okay? Just think of a light-skinned black dude, okay? That's how Esau looked. A light-skinned, ruddy dude, right? Reddish brown, right? As they describe King David. That's how Esau looks, man, right? Esau is not white, okay? Now, just like I said, when he mixed and mingled with the so-called daughters of Canaan, all right, that's when that lineage of Esau became white, okay? But initially, Esau wasn't born white, man, right? Only when he mixed with the daughters of Canaan, right? But we're going to get into that. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, right? Let's get back into the scripture. Salaki, it might be running a little, you know, slow now. But you know how that goes. You know, when you start speaking the truth, people start infiltrating, right? In continuation. Verse 17. Right? And it came to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those places. Verse 18. And in the same day, the Most High made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt onto the great river, the river of Euphrates. All right. And then, of course, when you go down, it's letting you know all of the Canaanites. And, of course, when you go down to verse 21, it's letting you know right here, once again, and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Girgashites and the Jebusites. All right. So that's letting you know who the nation of Canaan is, right? In continuation, let's go to chapter 16, still in the book of Genesis. All right. And we're going to go down to verse 7. And it read, and the angel of the Most High founded her by a foundation of water in the wilderness, by the foundation in the way of Shur. Verse 8. And he said, Hagar, Sarah's maid, whence camest thou? And whither wilt thou go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress, Sarai. Okay. Now, as you've noticed, it said the angel of the Most High found her by a fountain, right? This is not talking about the Most High himself. This is talking about an angel, which is a messenger. Now, in the previous videos, I've already determined when you speak of an angel of the Most High, that could be speaking of a person, all right? An angel is just a messenger. You can have heavenly celestial angels, and you can have terrestrial angels, all right? So right here, this is very well possibly speaking about a terrestrial angel, which is a messenger of the Most High, which is a descendant of Shem. Okay? Verse 9. And the angel of the Most High said unto her, return to thy mistress and submit thyself under her hand. Okay? Verse 10. And the angel of the Most High said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. Okay, so not to be confused here when it's speaking on to Hagar, saying her seed, this is talking about the seed of Abram. Okay, because remember, Sarai, which is later turned to Sarah, gave Hagar over to Abraham, to conceive, because during that time, the Most High had Sarah barren. So she couldn't have a child by Abraham, and Sarai felt bad for it, so she decided to give Hagar over to Abraham, which is her handmaid, aka slave, right? Verse 11. And the angel of the Most High said unto her, behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shalt call his name Ishmael, because the Most High have heard thy affliction. Okay, so that's the meaning of Ishmael, because, the Most High have heard of her affliction, right? Through the angel. Okay. Verse 12. And he will be what? A wild man, all right? His hand will be against every man, and every man against him, all right? Which is today, really, right? You have a lot of people, they're all against the nation of so-called Islam, all right? You have the so-called UN. They're against the Nation of Islam, right? Which is the so-called Palestinians, right? They took up that religion of Islam, okay? Which are really Canaanites, and the Canaanites are the idolaters of the world. They take on everyone's religion, right? But just so happened in that part of the world, which is the Gaza Strip, they took on the Nation of Islam's religion, right? Okay, so if you're going to take on that belief, then you're going to take also the curses of Ishmael, right? Which is having every nation against you. All right. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. Okay, all his brethren, right? Which they're doing now. They're in the presence of all nations, almost, man. The Canaanites, right? They're over here in Americas. They're over there in South America. They're over there in Canada. They're in Europe, right? Everywhere you can find someone who's white, right? They're in all nations. They're in Australia. They're in Japan, okay? They're in so-called China, right? South Korea, North Korea, right? They mixed and mingled with all nations. They're literally the horrors of the earth, man. The Canaanites, right? In continuation. Wherefore, Salakia, verse 13, and she called the name of the Most High Power that spake unto her, thou power seize me, for she said, have I also here looked after him that seeth me? Verse 14, wherefore the well was called Bir-la-Haroli, behold, it was between Kadesh, all right, and Bered, which is set apart. Kadesh, all right, the Holy Land. That's the definition of Kadesh. Verse 15, and Hagar bare Abraham a son. And Abraham called his son's name, which Hagar bare, Ishmael. And Abraham was 60 years old when Hagar bare Ishmael unto him. Okay. So during the times back then was totally different than the times now. So some people would say 80. That would be, you got 30, 60, 90, 120. So that would be 126, right? So he would be 126 years old, right? Or it could be, it could be, with the score, it could be 10 each, right? It could be 46, right? It could be 40 years, okay, and 6 years old. So it could be 46, right? But, there's a lot of confusion going on with that. So you can't really say per se exactly what it is, okay? But know for surety, the calculation of times back then was totally different than what the times are now. Okay, this system that we're following now is from ancient Rome, which is Hellenism, and it was a totally different calculation, compared to what we're counting from back then during Abraham's time, right?